Morning, everyone. It's Tasha here with Tasha Talks to Teens, and today we're going to do some tapping around some of the anger and stress people might be feeling. And if you are a teenager and can't be out with friends and are spending a lot of time in your room, maybe not getting the same amount of exercise that you'd normally be getting, having as much fun, getting to discharge some of that extra passion and angst in a sport or an activity you like, you might feel a lot like a mindfulness jar that is spinning out of control. There might be moments where you feel like you can't take this anymore, moments where there's so much frustration in you. It almost feels like you're in a volcano that's ready to explode, and know that you're not alone with that feeling. You know, some people feel quite shut down and sad about what's happening. A lot of people are quite anxious, but there are many people out there that are feeling quite pent up and probably taking it out on the people that are around them, understandably, and maybe even taking it out on yourself as an individual. And I want to offer a skill that we have at our fingertips that could be a way to be kinder to yourself, to acknowledge what you're feeling, but also dial it down. And so with tapping, we know that part of its effectiveness is it's blending Eastern medicine with touching acupressure points that we know can help calm a nervous system and change energy flow, mixing it with Western psychology, where we're using affirmations and reminding ourselves that we're making it through this moment and that we have this ability to cope. And it's a powerful tool. And so I ask that with this video in particular, that you share it on your Facebook page. You will have it as a resource that you can come back to, so that you can do tapping over and over again, in particular addressing the anger. And then it gets the message out there. I know with so much isolation, and now we're several weeks into this global situation, that people are starting to feel things, and it's starting to feel kind of heavy. And so we know that doing mindfulness every day, finding some ways to show some gratitude, moving your body, moving some of the angsty energy through your body is going to be so helpful, not only for you to get through today, but for weeks to come, so that we don't have a whole generation of people that are forever changed after this experience that we're all going through, and that we truly don't know when it's going to end. So please share it. Share. That would be amazing. And I'm going to take you through a sequence that if I were putting myself in the shoes of a teenager or a child or a young adult right now, that this would kind of make sense to me. And if you're an adult, a 50-year-old that is like, I'm feeling a lot of anger myself, know that this is really effective. And so it starts by tapping on what we call the karate chop point. And we start by leaning into and acknowledging what we feel. The opposite of what happens when we feel anxiety, which is often a collection of symptoms that we feel when we are trying to avoid what's really going on. And with the tapping exercise and the tapping tool, you're actually going to acknowledge that yucky stuff that we often stay silent around. So even though I'm feeling very angry and stressed, so I'm going to get you to repeat after me. Even though I'm feeling really angry and stressed, it feels like pressure in my head. And it feels like pressure in my head, like I'm wearing a really tight helmet. Right here and right now, I'm doing something to help manage this moment. Even though I feel a lot of anger, and it feels like pressure in my head, and it feels like pressure in my head, and I keep thinking the same thing over and over again. Right here and right now, I'm managing this moment. Even though I'm feeling a lot of anger, more anger than I would normally feel. Feels like racing thoughts, way more tension. than I normally would have. Feels like I've got a really tight helmet across my head, squeezing my head. Right here and right now, I'm doing something to take care of myself. And then we're just gonna acknowledge the feeling that's going on for us right now and touch on other acupressure points. So using your 5 fingers, you're going to tap on the crown of your head. This anger that I feel is bigger than normal. It's with me a lot of the time. That's really good. Normally we tap on points on our face, but with COVID-19, we're going to choose to tap on other spots so we know that we're not spreading the virus, even though our hands should be clean. And then we're going to tap on a spot that's on your collarbone, woo, 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 like you're a monkey. This anger that I feel builds up in my head. It's more than I normally would feel. Yeah, that's good. And then under the armpit, so about 3 inches under your armpit, if you were wearing a bra, it would be there. Oh, this anger that I feel. It's like a tight band around my head. And know that as we're tapping, you can also rub these points as well, and you determine how much pressure you want to give. If you're really sensitive, you might do it quite gently. I find that the rhythm and tapping myself with a decent amount of pressure feels really good for me. Then we're going to do a point on our wrists. This anger that I feel. Things are bugging me more than normal. It's like racing thoughts through my head. Feels pretty out of control. And then we're going to tap on another point that's really good if you are someone that's ever been through trauma, a car accident, maybe a place where you didn't feel safe, an assault or scary thing that happened to you online. Know that touching this point is very helpful for calming down trauma. And so it's between your baby finger and your ring finger. There's a dip in your bones. You can kind of feel between the two. And you can tap on that spot too, this anger that I feel. Really good. And just take another deep breath in and out. If you feel comfortable, you might want to close your eyes and just cue in with what you're noticing in your body right now. Has that feeling of anger shifted at all? Is it as big, or has it started to get a bit smaller? Is it still, are you feeling it in your head, or is it somewhere else? Is there a temperature to it? Is there a thought that comes along with it? And sometimes there is, and for some people there isn't. And know that whatever you're feeling is okay, and it's understandable, and it makes sense. Just notice where you're at. We're going to do one more cycle of that so that you get an idea. The more we practice something, the more that we are helping to build new neural connections. So not only can we practice this again, but we're actually starting to change our brain. So even though I feel all this anger, there's a lot of stuff that's out of my control right now. I keep thinking things over and over again. Feels like pressure in my head. Right here and right now, I'm actually acknowledging how I feel, and I'm doing something to take care of myself. Really good. Even though I feel all this anger, more than I normally would feel. It's like pressure across the top of my head. And racing thoughts. I can go from 0 to 100 so quickly right now. right here and right now, I'm doing okay. Even though I feel a lot of anger. And it feels like a tight band across my head. It's with me a lot more than it normally is. I'm blowing up at people in my family, and I'm saying bad things to myself. In this moment, I'm doing something that's helping to take that anger down. That's really good. This anger that I feel. Really good. And then the collarbone point, all this anger. It feels pretty intense in my mind, like pressure across my forehead. I can go 0 to 100 pretty fast. This anger is pretty big. I don't have the same handle on it that I normally would. And because we're getting ready to finish this cycle of tapping, we're going to end with some affirmations that help us know we're managing it. This anger that I feel, it's just one feeling in the many that are in myself right now. And I can choose to give it some space. And also know that I've got a skill that I can use to manage it. I can tap to move this through my body and remind myself that I have some power over how I feel. Anger is not who I am. It's just a part of who I am sometimes. Yeah, this anger that I feel, it's pretty understandable. There's a lot of stuff going on right now. I don't have my normal outlets to let it out. But I know that I can tap and I can remind myself of how capable I am. It's going to help me manage with this better. I actually can find a way to move this feeling through my body. And I can be better to myself. That's really good. And I have a fantastic young person that I work with who taught me a new way to a mantra that she uses when she feels angry. And as she's breathing in, she thinks to herself, I'm breathing in the good shit. And as she breathes out, she thinks to herself, and I'm breathing out the bullshit. And if that is something that's helpful for you, know that you can borrow her mantra. I've had permission to share it with people and offer it. For some people, it might be breathing in a sense of peace and breathing out the yuckiness. Really, really good. Yeah. And just, again, finish with a breath in and breathe out and just notice where you're at. Even now, as I check in with myself, as I always do after I've done a mindfulness practice or a tapping sequence, I like to check in from the top of my head and let that inward focus sort of scan through my whole body. For me, I like to do it with my eyes closed. That feels okay for me. For some people, especially if you have trauma in your history, I'd invite you to keep your eyes open so you keep yourself in this space. But check in with how you feel. What's your mood like? Does the anger feel any different? Has that tension in your head shifted? Are you thinking different things now? And I'd invite you to write it down. So one of the things we know about how people learn the best is when we not only do an exercise, but reflect and write down how it's impacted us. It helps to solidify the learning, so we're more likely to do it again. So I invite you to practice this. Please share it with your friends and know that I will be here every morning at 10 a.m. to offer another skill, whether and a writing exercise, and just be a familiar face for you to check in with, so that you can remind yourself you're not alone. We're in this together, and remind yourself through this too that we know that this is not a forever thing, and we want to get through this as a community and as a global community, being as healthy as we can, knowing that we're being asked to do something, and knowing that we have to follow through on social isolation, which is really the opposite of what we know humans need in order to feel really healthy and to thrive. So this is a little bit that's going to help keep people feeling as good as possible. Until tomorrow, remember to breathe, keep tapping, and be well.